Welcome, everyone. Um, Elements of folklore. So, we will be learning about folklore for this lesson. How are you doing, Adara?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you, Chris?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, this is going to be a very important lesson because at the end of this lesson, you will learn how you can have true happiness. Now, I want true happiness. How about anyone else?
I would love some true happiness.
Oh, yes, true happiness is wonderful. That's what we want. So, we will begin with folklore. Now, folk tales is a type of folklore, and folk tales is mostly what we are going to be talking about today because the book that I will be reading to you is a folk tale. So I'm just going to let you watch this short video, and I will be reading it. It's not a video where you will hear anything except maybe some music. I'm actually going to turn that music down. Okay, so folk tales. So what are folk tales? So folk tales are stories that have no author. They have been passed down from generation to generation. Now, folk tales, since they are by word of mouth, can change over time. Folk tales include fables, fairy tales, tall tales, legends, and so forth. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about fairy tales. Can y'all give me any ideas of what a fairy tale?
The Lion and the Mouse.
Well, the Lion and the Mouse, that would be like a fable. Very good, Chris. But what about a fairy tale, like Once Upon a Time, like a princess story?
Cinderella.
Cinderella, very good, Adara. Very good. So that's like a fairy tale. So folk tales are like fairy tales in a way. They are a type of folklore, which, okay. And then now folk tales, so they're a part of long tradition of storytelling. And they are also have a very important characteristic and they have characters, events, images, or themes that appear in literature of many cultures. So we can have Hispanic folk tales, American folk tales, Jewish folk tales, Chinese folk tales. So there's all different types of cultures that can have their own folk tales that have been passed down from generations to generation. So now we have different characters in folk tales. So usually characters that are in folk tales have very common beings, like they're poor, rich, or they have a very set character. And by that, it is just one character trait or two character traits. And like, here's some examples of characters like the Three Little Pigs or Aladdin in Aladdin. And then we also have themes of folk tales. So a theme of a folk tale can be a message, like a show of good triumphing over evil, or teaching a practical lesson about how to get along in life. Like Chris, you mentioned about the lion and the mouse. There was a very important story, a very important message to that. Can you tell us what it is since you've read the story?
It was really a message of friendship. Like the mouse pulls the actual thorn out of the lion's hand, but they're so different, so they were able to get along.
Yes, exactly. So the lion and the mouse teaches a story of friendship, which is a very important thing for a folk tale because children can learn messages from reading folk tales. Okay, now I want you to put your hand on your right cover of the screen so you won't see the questions, the answers to the questions. Can you do that for me? I'm trusting you. Okay, so folk tales were originally passed from one generation to another by word of mouth. Chris, is that true or false?
True.
True. Very good. Very good. Now, so folk tales. remain exactly the same over time. Adara, is that true or false?
True.
No, actually, it is false. The reason why it's false is because you know how when one person tells someone else something and then that person will tell someone else something, sometimes the truth kind of gets lost and there's another story created. So actually, folk tales are different. Oh, and they since people are passing them and passing them to other people, so the story does change a little bit. Um, so the motives of characters, events, images, or themes that appear in literature of many cultures. Is that true or false, Chris?
True.
True, very good. So folk tales, cultures have their own different folk tales. All right, so I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so just the elements of folklore, the basic elements are that a story is a story that has been passed down from generation to generation orally. It has characters that have simple characteristics, such like they are brave or poor or rich or greedy, etc. And also, most importantly, it has a special message. Now, we are going to be looking at a book today called It Could Always Be Worse by Margaret Zimach. I think I'm saying that right. But the story is a folk tale, which is a type of folklore. The book has all the elements of folklore, which we will discuss at the end of the book. And the book teaches a valuable lesson about happiness. So, I want you to look at the picture here. On the front, this is actually the cover, the front of the story. Chris, what can you tell me about that picture by just looking at it?
I can't see the picture.
Yeah, we can't see the picture.
I'm unable to see her.
Can y'all see the screen at all?
I can see your screen, but it doesn't show the picture that you have. It shows the Zoom count.
Oh dear. Okay. Okay, well, can you see it? Can you see my book?
I can see your book. Yes, ma'am.
Can you make out what it is?
Yes. Yep, ma'am. Robert Zemrich. Okay. I can see it.
Okay, can you tell me what is on the front of the page, Chris?
It looks like a family.
That's right, it's a family. It is a family living in a house. And since you can't see the pictures very well, there are 9 people in this house. What does the house look like? Do they look like they're spread out or crowded or?
Looks like a small house with a lot of people in it.
That is right. Do you think they are happy or uncomfortable living in such a small house?
I think they don't like it.
I don't think they do either, Chris. They don't look very happy at all. So I'm going to begin reading the book, and hopefully y'all will be able to see the pictures. Okay. So, and I'm going to ask you different questions throughout the book. So this is, remember, a folklore, and remember we are looking for a message within the book. Okay. So once upon a time, in a small village, a poor unfortunate man lived with his mother, his wife, and his 6 children. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that y'all can just see the book a little bit better. Y'all see it a little bit better? Okay. So because they were so crowded, the man and his wife often argued. The children are noisy and they fought. In winter, when the nights were long and the days were cold, life was especially hard. The hut was full of crying and quarreling. One day, when the poor unfortunate man couldn't stand it any longer, he ran to the rabbi for assistance. Now, the rabbi was a very important part, and this is actually a Jewish culture. The rabbi is a very important part of the Jewish culture. He is the leader. And anyone that is in the village will go to him and ask him questions. And he's really considered the leader of the community. So anyway, though, also whenever I say crying and quarreling, I want y'all to cry for me. Right, Adara, very good. Very, very good. Now, we are also going to have different farm animals throughout the book, and you will see how that is throughout the story. But I want you to make the noise of the farm animals, and I will let you know the reason why in a little while. So the man goes to the rabbi. He is so tired of the house and of being so noisy and cramped. He says, "Holy Rabbi," he cried, "things are in a bad way with me and getting worse. We are so poor that my mother, my wife, my 6 children, and I all live together in one small hut. We are too crowded and there is so much noise. Help me, Rabbi. I'll do whatever you say." The rabbi thought. He pulled his beard and he's thinking. At last he said, "Tell me, my poor man, do you have any animals? Perhaps a chicken or 2? "Yes," said the man, "I do have a few chickens, also a rooster and a goose." "Ah, fine," said the rabbi. "Now go home and take the chickens, the rooster, and the goose into your hut to live with you." "Yes, indeed, Rabbi," said the man, though he was a bit surprised. What do you think is going to happen, Adara, whenever that poor man brings all of the animals into that already overcrowded house?
They're not going to have any room.
They are not going to have any room. They are going to be more crowded than they were before. Do you think that the man thought that what the rabbi asked him to do was a little bit strange?
Yes.
Perhaps. So, Chris, why do you think the man obeyed the rabbi?
Because he trusted.
That's right, because the rabbi was the leader of the village, and he was the one with the education, and the people trusted him to make the right decisions. So the poor, unfortunate man hurried home and took the chickens, the rooster, and the goose out of the shed and into his little hut. And look at this little hut right here. Can you see that picture? It's a little hut. And see, this is the whole village. This shows the whole village. And look how small it is compared to some of the other houses. So it's very small. Okay, now whenever I read an animal noise, I want y'all to make it. So, when some days or a week had gone by, life in the hut was worse than before. Now with the quarreling and crying. Can y'all cry for me? Very good, Chris.
I cry every day.
Yes. Now with the quarreling and crying, there was honking. You know, honk, 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 honk. And crowing. And clucking. Cluck, 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 cluck. There were feathers in the soup. The hut stayed just as small, and the children grew bigger. When the poor, unfortunate man couldn't stand it any longer, he again ran to the rabbi for help. Now, let's just pause one little minute. Now, this is a folktale story. It has been a story that has been passed down. Now, let me ask you this. What is the main character of the story? And the main character is the one who is in the story the most. Adara.
Is it the rabbi?
Actually, it would be the poor, unfortunate man. Now, the poor, unfortunate man, the characters have many, usually in a folk tale, the character will have just like a set of qualities about him. Now, what was the man? What was he? Was he rich or was he greedy, or what kind of adjective would you call the man?
Poor.
Poor. That is right. Very good, Adara. He was poor and he was unfortunate. And it's also neat to notice that he doesn't have an actual name in the book. He is always called the poor and unfortunate man. So he runs to the rabbi again for help. "Holy Rabbi," he cried, "see what a misfortune has befallen me. Now with the crying and quarreling, with the honking, clucking, and crowing, there are feathers in the soup. Rabbi, it couldn't be worse. Help me, please." The rabbi listened and thought. At last he said, "Tell me, do you have a goat?" "Oh, yes, I do have an old goat, but he's not worth much." "Excellent," said the rabbi. "Now, go home and take the old goat into your hut to live with you." "Ah, no, do you really mean it, Rabbi?" cried the man. "Come now, my good man, and do as I say," said the rabbi. Chris, what do you think that poor unfortunate man is thinking?
That he has to do it because the rabbi said so.
Yes? What else do you think he's thinking?
I don't know.
Adara, what else do you think that poor man is thinking?
If you have to do something else,
Well, he is probably thinking, "Oh no, I've got to put another animal into my house because the rabbi said so." So he is in panic, which means he is worried. The poor unfortunate man tramped back home with his head hanging low. What is it usually when we hang our heads low? Why is that?
we're sad.
We are sad. He is sad because he knows that this is not going to work, that goat is just going to make more noise and cause more confusion. The poor unfortunate man, so he tramped home. He took the old goat into his hut. So can y'all see that picture?
Yes,
Yeah.
What is happening? Can you tell?
it looks very crowded.
Yes, it's very crowded. He has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. 10 in his house. Actually 11, no, 12, 13. So including animals, that's 13 living beings living inside this poor man's house. When some days or a week had gone by, life in the little hut was much worse. Now with the crying, quarreling, clucking, honking, and crowing, the goat went wild, pushing and butting everyone with his horns. The hut seemed smaller, the children grew bigger. When the poor unfortunate man couldn't stand it another minute, he ran back to the rabbi. "Holy Rabbi, help me," he screamed. "Now the goat is running wild. My life is a nightmare." What do you think the rabbi is going to say to that, Adara?
I don't know.
Okay, Chris, do you have an idea?
I think he's gonna help him.
Okay. So the rabbi listened and thought. At last he said, Tell me, my poor man, is it possible that you have a cow?
Moo.
Young or old, it doesn't matter. Yes, Rabbi, it's true, I have a cow, said the poor man fearfully. Fearfully. He knew what the rabbi was going to ask, doesn't he?
Another animal?
Go home then, said the rabbi, and take the cow into your hut. Oh, no, surely not, Rabbi, cried the man. Do it at once, said the rabbi. The poor unfortunate man trudged home with a heavy heart and took the cow into his hut. Is the rabbi crazy? He thought. So why do you think the rabbi thought that, why do you think the man thought that the rabbi might be crazy?
All the animals?
All of the animals. The rabbi doesn't seem to be helping him with his situation, but just making it worse. When some days or a week had gone by, life in the hut was very much worse than before. Everyone quarreled, even the chickens. The goat ran wild, the cow trampled everything. The poor man could hardly believe his misfortune. At last, when he could stand it no longer, he ran to the rabbi for help. What do you think the rabbi is going to do this time, Adara?
He is going to help him.
That's right, he is going to help him. Holy Rabbi, he shrieked, help me! Save me! The end of the world has come! The cow is trampling everything. There is no room even to breathe. It's worse than a nightmare. The rabbi listened and thought. At last he said, go home now, my poor unfortunate man, and let the animals out of your hut. I will, I'll do it right away, said the man. So what do you think is going to happen when he lets all of those animals out of the house? Chris.
Smell better.
That's right, it will smell better.
He's going to have a nice big house to live in.
That's right, he will have it. Excuse me. The poor unfortunate man hurried home and let the cow, the goat, the chickens, and the goose and the rooster out of his little hut. That night, the poor man and his family slept so peacefully. There was no crowing, no clucking, no honking. There was plenty of room to breathe. The next day, the poor man ran back to the rabbi. What do you think the man is going to tell the rabbi?
He didn't like having the animals in his house.
Okay. Adara, what do you think the poor man is going to tell the rabbi? Do you think he's going to be grateful or mad or...
That.
Okay. Let's see what the ending is. Holy Rabbi, he cried, you have made life so sweet. With just my family in the hut, it's so quiet, so roomy, so peaceful. What a pleasure. So what was that man? He was happy at the very end. So, can you tell me the true meaning of happiness by reading this book? Adara.
Happiness is when you're free.
Well, yes, and it's what Adara? I'm sorry, what did you say? I didn't catch all of that.
I said happiness is when you're free and you're at home by yourself.
Yes, that's true. Chris, can you add to that?
He's happy he had a friend in the end that would help him.
Yes, and most importantly, he learned that it could get worse and that he needs to be content with what he has. So whenever he went to the rabbi, he was hoping that the rabbi would help his situation, maybe give him money or improve the situation somehow. But the rabbi made it worse so that the man could understand that in that situation he was better off. So now I'm going to make a share screen again. And I'm going to show you the slide again if I can find it. Can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to make the screen a little bit smaller. So now we've already discussed the character. What was the character of the unfortunate man in this book? What was his character like?
Well, he was poor.
Yes, he was poor, Adair. Thank you. Poor, and what else was he, Chris?
Very unfortunate.
Unfortunate, that's right. Very unfortunate. Okay, and now, so remember that the character, a set character, is one of the things that identifies folklore. So the culture, I don't believe I mentioned the culture. Can y'all guess what the culture was?
Did you say? I think you said it was Jewish, wasn't he? He's a rabbi.
Yes, I wasn't for sure if I had said it or not. Okay, so his culture was Jewish. Okay, now what was the message of the story that we talked about?
It could always get worse.
That's right, and to be content with what we have. So now, if I had been in the classroom, I would have done things a little bit differently. I would have had y'all to write this out after we had got finished explaining it so that y'all could practice your handwriting. I would also have made y'all draw a picture of what you thought the ending would have been like. So I know, Adair, you mentioned that the man might have been mad, but he was actually grateful to the rabbi. So you would have drawn a picture maybe of just of how you visioned the ending to be like. And also for the animal noises, I would have grouped. Of course, y'all would have been a much larger group instead of two. I would have grouped y'all up into groups. One group would have been the family. That would be about 8 students. And then the other group would have been the animals. The animals would move into the family group every time I mentioned an animal to come in. So, but that's the end. I hope y'all enjoyed reading the book. And so folklore, y'all learned the 3 big elements of folklore. And I will go ahead and stop sharing.